I started to like look at stories from other people who have come back from ACL tears and had their best season yet. And I started to do all these different things. And I started to realize, wow, like I actually am very much in control of a lot of things. Like I'm not in control of like the fact that my ACL is torn, but I am in control of so much more. And there's something about that phrase that really helps me every single day. So I'm so excited to bring that to others because I feel like when they have their moment or like things are not going right and they feel like they're going wrong, you can start to ask yourself internally, like, wait, what if this actually goes right? Like, what does that look like for me? And what little things can I do each day in order to come out stronger from this?
Hey, Nicole, what do you get when a former corporate CEO and a do-gooding executive walk into a recording studio?
Well, Aaron, nothing, because the two of us are usually on my couch or Zoom because wine.
You get a podcast created for Gen X women who are bought into the corporate world but fed up with the BS.
I know. It's how to thrive the 9 to 5 or 6 or 7.
It's career therapy. It's comedy. It's definitely full-on authenticity. Basically, we give you tangible strategies to rise in your career without compromising everything else.
Because work doesn't have to suck.
Hey guys, it's Erin here. I'm getting ready to tee up our next interview, but one of the things that you might not know about me is, as you probably know, I'm completely and utterly obsessed with authenticity. That's my entire brand, what I've been speaking on, researching, writing books on. It is so, I don't want to say bad, it's so extreme that I've found that the only thing I can watch on TV for the most part are sports documentaries, or reality TV shows. Basically, it needs to be real. And it doesn't matter how good of an actor somebody is. I've just gotten to this point where I'm still like, oh, I know there's an arc and I know it's not real. So, and I love sports too. So I love that component of it. But like, I have to watch something real. Like I can't, unless it's an 80s movie like Tommy Boy or something that I'm going back to watch, like I can't watch it. And so when the show American Ninja Warrior came out over 10 years ago, it's been on, at least 15 years. I, of course, watched it because it's reality and it's sport. And if you haven't watched it before, which I gotta imagine you've at least heard of it, it is a competition where people go through an obstacle course, an extreme obstacle course, like one in which where you're like, there's no way most of us normal people couldn't even make it past the first obstacle. And they're just so strong. And it's become, what used to be sort of like a side hustle and people learn how to do it now has become like there are gyms for it. There are trainers that are professional ninja warriors. Today, we get to talk to one of those American Ninja Warriors, and not just somebody that went on once, but somebody that went on and has an incredible story with highs and lows and how she got there. But most importantly, what you can learn from that. And her name is Angela Gargano. And I met her about 6 months ago. She's part of the speaking program I'm in. And she is just such a light. She has such great energy, such sincerity, and such passion around what she's learned and how to share in getting over setbacks and obstacles. And not in just a metaphorical way, but in a real way. Some of the things we talk about, we first dive into how her time as a biochemist, that's what she started as, which was surprising to me. I didn't know it until I started researching for the interview, but how one component of it really surprisingly served her as an American Ninja Warrior. We also talk about the mindset shifts that she made when everything seemed to be going wrong. We talk about her RIGHT framework, 5-step process for getting through setbacks. And we actually talk through, I'm vulnerable and share, like, I had a setback today that made me feel like shit just hours before we recorded. And so we sort of use that to go through. And I encourage you, as you should, like, practice this stuff on stuff that you've recently felt setbacks you've had, no matter how small they are. We also talk about brain dumping, she calls it, and why it's critical to making the most of your setbacks. And then also, I love this phrase, this power of taking what she calls delusional action. So it's just a really inspiring, it's interesting. You get behind the scenes on the show, but you also get somebody who really, truly cares about you and others getting through their setbacks on a daily basis, or those bigger setbacks that might be really hindering how you're feeling. So without further ado, enjoy my conversation with Angela. Oh, I forgot to say she's her credentials. I started a little different. She's a 6-time American Ninja Warrior. She was Miss Fitness America in 2016, 3 times cover girl, and an international keynote speaker. And she's also the founder of the Pull Up Revolution, which we will talk about on the podcast. Okay, enough of me. Enjoy the podcast. I've been having so much fun diving into your stuff. I, of course, adored you before we got ready to do this podcast, but now I adore you even more.
Oh, yeah.
We have to go right at it. So I met you about 6 months ago, both in a speaking program. We're both pretty new. You're newer to speaking probably than I am, but obviously have lots of natural talent, and you're always smiling, and you're obviously in fitness, and you're younger and you're vibrant. And then I'm prepping for this and I found out you started as a biochemist. Like, what?
Yes, I know. Everyone's always super shocked when they hear that.
And not that I'm profiling, right? Because certainly smart, intelligent people can also be vibrant and fit, et cetera. But and just indulge us to start. I have so many questions, but indulge us with your start in biochemistry and how you sort of accidentally did a tape-ish for American Ninja Warrior and sort of what transcribed there.
Yeah, it's so interesting because, obviously growing up, your parents are always like, what do you want to be? What do you want to be? And at first I told my mom, I was like, oh, I wanted to be like in the circus or something wild. And she just looked at me like, that's that's not a real job. Like, you're not going to be able to do that. So I'm like, okay. So I started to kind of think about the other things that I just enjoyed in school. And I just had a really amazing chemistry teacher back in school. And he just made chemistry super fun. And I was like, you know what? Like, why not? Like, why not get into science? I feel like this can be something super fascinating that I can get myself into. So went into school and like right away was like, I'm going to go in for chemistry. Like, that's what I said to myself. But I honestly like internally didn't fully know what I was getting myself into. I just assumed like, okay, cool. I can get like a stable job with that. Might as well do that. I'm kind of interested in it. So like, why not just go full-fledged all into science? So graduated with a biological chemistry degree. And then I went to go working in the lab at Brown University. It's so funny. Sometimes like people misconstrued that, but that I went to Brown University, but I didn't. I worked at Brown University after.
Oh, amazing.
So I worked at Brown University and then was doing like just a bunch of work on trying to create compounds for prostate cancer, which was actually super fun. I actually really enjoyed like the hands-on piece of that. But then after a while, I was trying to, the next steps of that typically is like, you're going to go get your PhD and you're going to like work in the lab and stuff like that. So I started to take like all the tests for that, the GRE, trying to get all the things that I needed together in order to get into some kind of program to get my PhD. But for some reason, it just was never working out. Like, I couldn't test good. I was really great with my hands. I was really great with getting all the stuff done in the lab, but I could not get my brain to like actually get good scores on these tests. And I got super frustrated. And then after a couple of months, I was like, you know what? A couple of years of like doing that, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go into pharmaceuticals. Like, you can make pretty good money in there. I'm going to see what it's like. So I wound up working at this place called Genzyme, where you're working not only in a lab, but now it's like large scale. So now you want to think like mindset wise, Breaking Bad, like big tanks of things. And now you're going in full hazmat suited in every single night. So I worked overnight. I worked 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. And you're like taking samples and making the compounds. And yeah, as I was in there, I internally, like, when you already know, you're like, I don't really feel like I belong here. It's so basic. I knew I didn't really belong. And at the time, my friend, she was trying out for the popular TV show American Ninja Warrior. And in order to get on American Ninja Warrior, you have to create this submission video. So it's a submission video showing your athletic ability, but also it's a TV show, right? It's basically a reality TV show. So you have to have some kind of story. So you put together this story, you hand that submission video in, and they'll select you based on that. And as I was doing it, the videographer was like, Angela, like, you did gymnastics while you were in college, because I did gymnastics in college while I was doing biochemistry. You should try out for it too. And of course, I'm thinking like me, like, first of all, one, I had no idea what the show was. I never watched it. I don't really watch TV. I don't know how you are. I really don't watch like a lot of TV at all. I had no idea what the show was about. But he just kept like kind of pushing me. He just kept saying like, you need to do this. I see you doing this. I see you doing this. And I'm just like, oh, I don't know, like whatever. So last minute after she was all done, he's like, let's just throw something together. So I'm like, whatever. let's do it. Throw this video together. Didn't think anything of it. Didn't think anything was going to come of it. I was just like, whatever. And then a couple months later, I wind up getting that mystery phone call. And this is back when you had to like dial in for your voicemail. So like what someone left a voicemail, you have to like dial in to actually hear it. And the guy was like, you've been accepted on American Ninja Warrior and you're going to compete. And he said it with that voice. It's pretty funny. And I was like, oh my goodness, like I have no idea. I don't know how to ninja. Like I don't know what ninja is. Now I need to look it up. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm posting all over Facebook. Like, does anybody know anything about this? Because I have no idea what I'm doing. And luckily, I had a bunch of people who came out of the woodwork and were like, actually, yeah, we know all about how to ninja. We build courses in our backyard. You should come and we'll teach you how to do it. And I was like, all right. So I just kind of went all in. And that's really where the whole thing started. It was literally a complete accident that I wound up getting on the show. It wasn't anything I ever thought was going to even happen.
Best happy accident. So everything went swimmingly, right? Right? Everything went perfectly. No.
Well, not really. Yeah. But when I went to these backyard courses that people had made. Again, very sketchy. I was living in Rhode Island at the time. And, I'm like driving the people I don't even know. It's going to their backyards.
We're like kindred spirits. I'm like, whatever. You want to, go to a concert 5 hours away and I just met you yesterday? Sure.
Yeah, I got there and luckily like they taught me, but the first day I tried ninja, I broke my nose like immediately. Like I was trying these obstacles, the bar bounced out, hit me in the face. It was like, I was like, this is gonna go great. Like I can do it.
Now I get to go on TV with a broken nose.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I was like, this is gonna go great. Got there, didn't know anything else about it. Also started to realize that, wow, this is actually filmed overnight. So they do film it overnight.
That was the coolest thing. I watched your video about like things you might not know. And for those listening, I gotta imagine most everyone knows what American Ninja Warrior, but I can't presume. I don't watch a lot of TV, but I only watch reality TV, sports, or documentaries because of like my whole authenticity thing, like even good actors, I'm like, it's acting. So a fan, but it's a reality TV show where people commit, where people compete across what you imagine, like a ninja course where you're swinging and flying and like the feats of strength are off the charts. But yes, tell them about when it's taped. And I just cannot even believe the irony of how that aligned with your previous job.
It was so wild. Yeah. So it's same thing, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. They film, it has to be in the dark because if you look at the sets, if you ever go watch it, it is really dark, right? And the lights are flashing, whatever. And the second like any kind of light comes out, like they shut the whole set down. Like they don't want any lights. I'm like, okay, cool. We're filming overnight. That's fun. You have no idea what the obstacles are going to be before you do it, which I think is always really interesting. Because people think like, oh, do they tell you like what you're going to get beforehand? No idea. But really funny. You get people put each other in a group chat and they spy because they're building this obstacle course outside for like a full week. So these people who are so into it would go outside. They would get binoculars. I'm not even kidding you. They would be out there spying, trying to figure out what they were making. And as they were trying to figure out what they were making, they would make replicas in like local gyms. Again, same thing, very sketchy, like built with like, plywood and nails and like all sorts of stuff. And they'd build like replicas that you can try, which I thought was really interesting. And it was fun with the community coming together, trying to figure out like what it was going to be like when you got there. And then you compete for the first night, and then the top 30, it's the furthest and the fastest. They move on to there's another night, and it's the same course, but then it's longer. And then after that, the top 15 move on to compete in Vegas to try and climb Mount Midoriyama. So like all these things I had no idea when I got there when I was doing this. And they do it differently now, but they didn't pay your way. So I didn't have any money. I had to figure out a way to like fundraise, get a flight. I was borrowing some person's car in Pittsburgh. I didn't even know the person. I mean, there are so many things that are so interesting. Yeah, but I definitely, after that, like it was, not only was it the sport that I thought was really fun, but it was the community of the people, kind of how we feel when we're in our group that we're in now for speaking. It's just, there's something so special about them. Everyone was so uplifting and everyone just wants somebody to get to the course. And at the time, it's a little bit, Ninja's very different now, but at the time, there's a lot of like normal, regular people who like myself, who was like a biochemist or someone who's like a firefighter or just has regular jobs and they're just doing Ninja on the side. And that's what I thought was so fascinating about the sport. It was like, these aren't just like athletes, right? These are people who have like regular day jobs and they're here on the weekend and they're going to be like a hometown hero for just, for coming in and trying to complete this course, which I think is super cool.
Yeah. So how did it go?
So the first time I didn't do awful, but I didn't do great. Also the other thing they don't tell you is they don't necessarily air you. So you could do pretty decent. And what I did the first time is I got to the same obstacle everyone was falling on. It was called like this Snake Ridge crossing or something. So I got to that one. And slipped off there. That's where most people are falling. But after that, like I got all my friends together to watch the show. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be on the show. You're gonna see me, whatever. They don't even tell you if you're gonna be aired or not. And then like literally didn't show me at all. They were all sitting there like waiting to watch it, and I'm like, I swear I competed, guys, but I guess they're not showing it on TV. But yeah, so
What a worthwhile investment you made, right? You're like, what the hell did I just do?
yeah, but after I was so hooked on it and I was like, I'm gonna do this again. I'm coming back. And now I know what I'm doing. So I'm like, I'm gonna come back. And I wanted to be a top female because there's lots of it's always the males who are like getting through it, right? And I was like, I want to be one of those top females who get through this. But after I submitted again for 2 years and did not get on the show. Like they rejected. I was so confused. I'm like, I'm putting in a good video. Like, I don't understand like why.
Right. I did decent before. I wasn't a jerk. Like, well, how did I do that?
Exactly. I was a little cocky too. I was like, I got on once. Like, I did it. Like, didn't go on at all. And then didn't end up getting on till season 10. And at that point, things have obviously changed. Like now I decided like didn't want to do the pharmaceutical biochemistry job anymore. So I quit that. Went up opening a gym. I went up like getting on a cover of Women's Health magazine. Yeah, and that was my story. That was my story that got me into the video this time. You're like, hey, I'm back. Also, like things have changed.
I'm a bigger loser than I was before. Now will you take me?
Really quickly. And then, yeah, luckily I wound up getting on the show that time. And again, this time, like I felt so ready because I'd been competing locally now. I'm like going to these ninja gyms. I'm hanging out with all these people. I mean, I just felt like I was on top of the world with everything at that point.
Yeah. And then how did it go?
And then I got on and I was flying through the course and I was wild. I remember like looking in the audience and people were just like, who is this girl? Like I came in just like so confident. I get to the final obstacle that I need to get to become a top female. And my coach is standing on the sideline and we did this obstacle so many times. I'm like, wow, I'm like, I got that. And it was actually, I felt like it was easier. I'm like, I can do this. So flying through. And then as soon as I go to dismount, I wind up blacking out, collapsing on the course in front of everybody. And I didn't really honestly understand what was happening when I was on the course. I just remember like the camera zooming in more. The crowd was like, gasping. I heard Matt Eisman, the announcer, just being like, she's in a lot of pain. And I'm just like, yeah, actually I am in a lot of pain.
I get some help.
And then there's somebody on the sideline being like, you gotta go. Like, if you want to go, if you want to keep going, like now's the time. And I looked at him and I was just like, I can't go. Like, I literally can't even get up. And I remember him coming off, the guy on the sideline, picking me up, carrying me off the course. And I was in very much denial at that point. I was like, oh, I'm fine. I made it. I'm going to compete tomorrow night as a top female, whatever. And get to the office, my knee super swollen. And I realized I tore my ACL and in front of everybody. So really went from
of course that's how you made it on camera. You made it.
Oh, he's definitely made it.
Rainan's here. You made the cut.
Definitely made the cut for that one. But yeah, it was just such a wild experience because to go from this place of like I kept showing up even when I got rejected. I felt like I was doing everything right. I was doing everything that you should keep doing. You're persisting even when it's hard. You keep going. You're doing all the pieces with training to actually get this. And then for it to just not go your way, it was really hard. I mean, I really felt like I failed. Two, it was like in front of everybody. So I was very, very embarrassed that like this had happened in front of everybody. And at that point, I didn't know who I was after that. I was like, oh, all this time I've been training for being a ninja. And now who am I? Like, who am I without, if I can't do that, if I can't walk, if I can't do this, like, who even am I? And there was all these thoughts that started coming up after tearing my ACL that I got to some pretty dark places, honestly, when I call it like the in-between moment between really that incident happening or a challenge happening and you just honestly having no idea like what's going to happen next. And if you're actually if you are equipped to even handle it,
Yeah. Well, what I love about, obviously the story goes on and you rehab and you get back and you make it back to the course Of course, you now have an even better story. So you got the call again and you were able to compete again and you made top 5, right? If I have it right.
Yeah, I've been able to come back right where I was last time, which is pretty wild.
But what I love about your message, and I think you said this in one of your talks, you realized after that it wasn't about getting back to being a ninja or about back to winning or competing. It was really about getting back to your identity and yourself and who you were as a person now. And what I love is, so many speakers, thought leaders, come with these stories that are interesting, but sometimes it's like, yeah, but I'm not a ninja. I can't relate. But you have taken your lessons and your story in so many powerful directions with such sincerity, but also with such power. Like you have a wonderful podcast that's titled "What If It All Goes Right," which is also a title of your main keynote. Talk to us first about that statement and this power of the "what if" part of it, as you learned in the sort of tough journey you went through.
Yeah, I mean, and it's so true. I always say that when I'm talking to the keynote. I'm like, maybe you had like your ACL moment. Maybe it wasn't obviously on American Ninja Warrior, things along those lines, but we've all had that moment, right? We've all had that moment in our lives where we can all relate, where maybe things were going, we felt like we were going pretty well, we're feeling pretty good. And then all of a sudden, like something unexpected happens and it just like wipes you out. And it just like really tests the person that you are and really makes you go inward. And yeah, what happened was I felt really stuck after tearing my ACL. I kept thinking to myself, what if I fail? I also was a very strong, powerful leader, right? In the public and everything along those lines. So I didn't want anyone to see that I wasn't unwell, that I was not feeling good. So I kept hiding that, right? So I'd go up to people and I would basically be kind of like maybe everyone said before, right? You're kind of telling everybody you're fine. Like I'm fine, everything's fine. I'd go home, I was not fine. Like I was not okay. And I was really suppressing those emotions. And I realized that I really did need to actually feel all those things that I was feeling, which I think is really, really important. And I had a friend who came up to me and it's like always we always have that one person in your life who's like, you're saying you're fine and they're looking right through you. And they're like, you're not fine. She came up to me. She's like, listen, you've been here. And I want to be really clear about this story. Like I was in this dark place for months, right? Because you hear these stories from motivational leaders, right? And it sounds like they snapped out of it. Not the case. This is like, if you really want to think about it, this is like months of me just not being okay. Finally, someone goes up to me, listen, I've been seeing you. I see what's happening here. I know you're not okay. And she's like, I want to give you permission to feel whatever it is that you need to feel about the situation. She's like, but I don't want you to stay stuck here. She's like, you've been stuck here for a while and it's time to basically like set that deadline and get out of it, which I think was a really powerful statement for her, for her to say. And it was definitely the right timing. It was the right person. It was just the right place that I finally was ready to receive that, right? Because someone else might have said it and I would have been like, get out of here. And that's when I started to sit down and started to journal, what if it all goes right? So I've been journaling that since then. And I didn't honestly even know, right? I'm sitting here upset, depressed, frustrated with myself. But then I was like, wait, what do I even want? Like, what does even going right look like? And I think that was a really big eye opener because I sat there the first day, I really only had 3 things to write. I had no idea like what going right actually looked like. But then each day as I started to write a little bit more and a little bit more, I started to realize, oh, okay. What if I come back stronger? I started to like look at stories from other people who have come back from ACL tears and had their best season yet. And I started to do all these different things. And I started to realize, wow, like I actually am very much in control of a lot of things. Like I'm not in control of like the fact that my ACL is torn. This is happening. I have to go through this process, but I am in control of so much more. And there's something about that phrase that really helped me every single day. And just keep saying when things kept going wrong. Because even during my ACL process, like things were happening. I was getting blood clot. Like this would happen. Every second I'd be like, okay, what if it goes right? What if it all goes right? What can I do? And I feel like that phrase just has helped me so much. So I'm so excited to bring that to others because I feel like when they have their moment or like things are not going right and they feel like they're going wrong, you can start to ask yourself internally, like, wait, what if this actually goes right? Like, what does that look like for me? And what little things can I do each day in order to come out stronger from this?
Hey there, it's Erin. I'm just popping in real quick to ask you a question. Is there any chance you know someone who is looking for a keynote speaker for their upcoming event? Look, I know that many event organizers, they struggle to find a speaker who provides both tangible value and business knowledge, but that also lights their audience on fire. And I truly believe there aren't many speakers like me out there who are both former corporate executives and professionally trained speakers. And there's definitely none that roll in with an orange suitcase they unpack with their audience. Trust me on that. I would love nothing more than to bring my message of using authenticity as your strategic career and business advantage to people spinning in your universe, especially if you'd be there. I promise my talks always create an immediate buzz, but not just right after, but for months and years after the event is over. You can learn more about my message, style, and reviews, and share my speaking info by going to beauthenticinc.com/keynote-speaking. That's B, just the letter B, authenticinc.com/keynote-speaking. Or of course, we have it right in the show notes to make it easy for you too.
Is there something that's gone right that you couldn't even have predicted
Couldn't have predicted
Yeah.
from the surgery and everything.
from just, yeah, the whole experience?
Yeah, a friend had told me actually, she said, "This is gonna be a blessing in disguise." And I was like, "Get out of here." I was like, "This is not a blessing." Like, I was so frustrated. And we actually like weren't even friends for a second after she said that. And I think honestly, everything was already going right for me.
Yeah.
Like, didn't even realize it because I needed that moment. I needed to go inward. I was focused so much on the ninja and the big things and all these external things,
Accolades, the awards,
the awards and stuff like that. Without all of those things, I didn't feel like anything. And that was a huge problem, right? Because it's not about all those external things, right? It's about who you are as a person. Like, all those things are extra. That's great. It's awesome that you did that. But going internally and realizing that I was not focused on my mindset at all. Again, always focused on big things, always staying really busy and all that stuff, and not really focusing on that. And I was also really neglecting any little things. Again, all the big things were great, but I was working my butt off. I was barely sleeping. I was eating, but like not that much. I mean, there's so many little things that I wasn't focused on. So this actually gave me a huge opportunity to go inward. And I had the time, right, to focus on my mindset. I didn't feel like I had the time before. And now I had time to work on those little things and really create what I like to say is like a nice, strong foundation. I didn't have a strong foundation. I felt like I clearly crumbled under all of that, right? So I realized I need the strong foundation in my mind, in my body, in those little things. So this way I can do these next things. And if it wasn't for the ACL injury, I wouldn't be able to do half the things that I've done in my life. It was very much a moment that like needed to happen for me. And again, I always say in my podcast, like, what if it all goes right? But then I always say, like, but what if it's already going right?
Already going right.
And you don't even realize it.
Right. Yeah. So I was prepping and looking at your stuff. I thought about our audience, and I thought about this concept of micro moments. I think so many, a lot of our listeners are not ninja warriors, right? They're mostly working sort of a traditional corporate job. And if I think of my time and the sort of roller coaster of micro moments that would be setbacks, right? Things would be going great. Maybe we won a customer. Maybe a meeting went well. And then, then some executive sends the nastygram or a customer issue comes up and they reach out or whatever. And it was those micro setbacks. And ironically, today I had one. And so I thought we could kind of use it, maybe to use some of your techniques to go through. So, the world that we're in. If anybody doesn't love a roller coaster and rejection, don't go into public speaking because it inherently, and part of it is just logistics. Like you don't really sort of publish your calendar and your fees. And so people have to come to you if they're considering, and then they go to committees. And so you're a lot of times you're high because you're being considered, and then you're low because you didn't make it or what have you, or their budget wasn't big enough. So, just last week I had a high week coming off of maybe some lower weeks. I had two really great things come through. And then, from that high, I had another big opportunity that sort of started percolating early last week. Wasn't sure, their budget wasn't great. Came back to me Monday morning, like, they had a great conversation. We actually want you to they have 3 events. We want you to speak at both the leadership and the other one. So it was an opportunity to increase the budget. They're all in the Northeast, so they're close by. It's like a great client. Came with a warm lead. Like even their training department was like, "Can I have her name? Maybe we can use it for more." I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is going to be a great opportunity. So they asked me to put together a proposal. So I probably spent at least 3, maybe 4 hours yesterday on a custom proposal, which you don't always do, right? Sometimes it's just sort of off the shelf. Created sort of a program and a theme, and finished it in a hockey parking lot last night when my son was at his hockey tryout, and sent it this morning. And within like an hour and a half, they said, sorry, we're not going to move forward. And it was like very like cold, right? And so that's an example where, just last week I was on a high and I was like feeling good about this. And then it immediately, like, I was like, yeah, yeah, right. And it sets us. So I feel like so many people, that is the reality, right? We might not have that major ACL moment or, getting fired or laid off or whatever, but those micro moments, what would be the first thing that you would tell me? Is it to like journal, what if it all goes right? Or it would like, what should I do? How do I cycle out of this? How do we cycle?
So the first step, and again, I didn't realize I was going through this process when I tore my ACL, and now I literally use it for everything. And like now, obviously with keynote speaking, like I wanted to create like a framework for it, right? So I actually call it like the right method. And so like the first step with it is recognizing and feeling. Cause like I said before, I think so many of us are so strong and we just want to like brush it off and be like, it's fine. But like that sucks. Like that's a sucky feeling. Like you thought you were going to do it. You were excited about it. You wrote this proposal and then probably in your head, you're picturing all these awesome things that you can do with it. And then all of a sudden it's just like, no. So what I love to do is like take that moment and I call it a pity party. Like I give myself the pity party. Like give myself the moment to just be annoyed about it, whatever emotion it is, like I name it. I'm like, okay, cool. That emotion is like, I'm sad, I'm frustrated, I'm angry. I'm going to give myself whatever time I need. And maybe like, for a big moment like an ACL, I clearly obviously needed like a couple of weeks or a couple of months or whatever. But like for some other things, you can say, okay, maybe it's like something smaller and you're like, okay, I'm going to give myself 5 minutes to go to the corner, be freaking mad about it. Like, and it's okay. Like, it's okay because we are human and we're allowed to have that feeling. So something that you truly cared about and like you're allowed to have the moment to feel that way. So naming it, set yourself that deadline. So there's actually been some weeks where I'm like, I'm giving myself, my friend and I joke around, we're like, I give myself 7 days to quit for something once. I'm like, I quit for 7 days. Not forever, just for 7 days. And it's like the fact that you're already allowed to give yourself that permission to feel that and do that actually makes you come out of it faster, believe it or not. Because you're like, okay, instead of you like resisting it and being like, oh, like I need to be strong or keep trying to push through. It's like, nah, just feel whatever it is you need to feel. And then like my friend said, but don't get stuck there, right? Set that deadline and then name it. But then also realize that after that, you may not come out and be, let's say you're like super sad from something, right? You may not come out and be from sad to like unempowered and feel great the next day, right? So always think about the smallest next step up from sad. Like maybe it's just feel like average today. You're like, yeah, I'm just going to like, I'm average today. And knowing that you don't want to again try and go from 0 to 100, allowing your body to truly like recognize and feel those things. And then the next step is typically I go through and I figure out, okay, cool. Like obviously I can't control it. They said no, right? But is there anything else I can control from this? Like what else maybe it's like that proposal that you made was so epic and maybe you customize it and put all this stuff together. Maybe it's really good for somebody else that like they can use. Cool. I can use the stuff I already created for something else and maybe it'll be 10 times better. Maybe they're not ready right now, but maybe like a couple months later, they're like, hey, listen, Erin, we finally got the budget we wanted and like we want to use you now, right? So trying to think about the things that you can control and utilizing what you've already created and already done that maybe you can utilize for something else. I'm a huge believer now, again, I wasn't before, that like the rejection been for a reason. Like there's a reason, there's something bigger or better. That's maybe it was on the same dates. Like you'll see in a couple of weeks. Like
right, that has happened before. Yeah, that
where all of a sudden like, oh, thank goodness I didn't get that because this one's 10 times more money and the audience is like something I really want to go to. So I always have people, identify what they can control next in the process. So it's like feeling it and then identifying what you can control. Really writing that out, I feel like is really, really important because that's when you're allowed to, that's when you start to fully live your life. And you might have seen this in my keynote, but like that's when you're fully like, living your life by design instead of default. Like default is, I'm going to let this frustrating thing, some rejection, like control my life. And living by design is like, hey, I'm going to take this. I'm going to use this as an opportunity, figure out what I can control. And I'm going to keep going and keep showing up for something even better. And then the G is, obviously mapping out your game plan. And the game plan is really important because what I always have people do first is do like a full brain dump, whatever it is that on their mind of what they, is that they want to achieve and where they want, like what they want, what they're looking to control, right? And then I always actually have them circle the things that they may not think first, which is really understanding, like maybe it's like a bigger goal that you're focusing on right now, but first circling in that dump, the stuff for you personally, because like I said, it's the first thing that I lost when I was trying to reach this goal of American Ninja Warrior was the personal things, which was again, focusing on my mindset, making sure that I'm drinking water, sleeping, like things that are actually for yourself. So I'm like, okay, well, let's circle those things first because that needs to come first. Like you need to come first before all those other goals in your game plan. If you don't have that down, like we said, like the foundation, the goal doesn't matter what you want to do.
Right.
So you want to, go back to basics, have that strong foundation. So this way you can actually show up for whatever it is that goal is. And then we're here talking about, the keynote and being frustrated about it. Okay, cool. Like taking a moment to, write out all those things that you feel like you need to do next, but then also making sure that we're keeping in mind first. Okay, cool. What are some personal things that I can do for myself right now to make sure that I'm feeling mentally, physically strong so that I can keep showing up to do all these things and really, again, take it to the next level. So whether that be like noticing that maybe because you were working on the proposal, you like, again, for me, sometimes I'll just like won't eat, or I just like, I just let all those things go out the window, not drinking enough water.
I had that problem.
Maybe it's opposite. Maybe you're just like everything, So I'm really going back to, okay, cool, what can I do to make sure that my energy levels are good and I can actually show up as my best self is really important. And then when you're identifying the game plan, it's again, not thinking from 0 to 100. It's not thinking from, okay, cool, I'm going to go from 0 to hero. It's like, cool, what's like the first little step that I can do today with what I have to work towards my next goal? Again, maybe it's like using this proposal for another company. So maybe it's like figuring out, just a couple other places that you can go to, figuring out that first email and sending that first email. Like that might just be the first step type of thing. And really figuring out what that game plan is. And then the H is, we had put for, hold on to the adaptable mindset, because this is the biggest piece of all the stuff for your goals is even when you have the goals, even when you're feeling that what if it all goes right mindset, even when you're like ready to like, what that next thing is you're trying to work towards and you have some kind of plan mapped out, you got to be ready because things are going to go wrong. So how can you adapt to that and not let that break you? Because that's where people break a lot of times. They're like, wait, I had it all planned out. It was going to be like this. It's like, no, you need to be ready to like fully adapt to anything and really make sure that whatever it is that you're working towards is going to integrate into when life is going to life. Because life is going to be lifing at all times.
Yeah, I love that.
Which is super important. And then the last one is T, which is, I love to say this like this, but taking delusional action. Because for me to even come back from my ACL, like the doctor was like, you're not going to be able to come back in 11 months. Like that's not unheard of, but it's tough to come back from ACL in 11 months. And I had to have some kind of crazy thoughts in my head that I could do this. There was something in me internally. I was like, this is a little bit crazy, but like, I'm going to go for it. Like, I'm going to go for it. And I have some kind of delusion. And I had people around me who were like really helping me with that mindset of like, no, you're gonna be able to do this. I can see you coming back. And it's really taking that action. But again, really just knowing that, you have the back in your head, like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make this happen. Even if it sounds crazy, I'm going to go for it anyway.
I love it. So let me run through this a little bit with the situation I'm in real time.
Yeah, I love that.
So first, let's recognize, right? Like, what am I feeling? I felt disappointed. I don't know that I felt mad. I think the hardest part was that there was such an energy and excitement that like quickly just went off. And then, I guess I don't even know if this is part of the step, but part of my mindset shift was, look, the person that I was interacting with has 2 other bosses, right? And they've been described to me by her as very different people from her. And even though it seemed like they're on board, right? Like there's things outside of our control, not even the main contact I was at. And I think part of naming it too is I think anytime we get one of those rejections, it takes our confidence down a notch, right? It doesn't throw it off completely. People like you and me and most of us as speakers, like there is an overall confidence, but it shakes it a little bit, right? And so you question things a little bit. And so I would be identify what I can control. Like the first thing, you mentioned, use this proposal, et cetera. I mean, one of the things it forced my creativity. And I talk about authenticity as a strategy, and I talk about how it helps you to connect and trust both internally and externally. And then I get really jacked up about how it also helps you stand out from the competition. Like if you change how you do your sales and your interactions and how you position your value proposition in a way that's like authentic and people actually understand, right? And when I was going through this proposal, they're going through a big transformation. They're sort of switching their business model. These are salespeople, so their comp is being switched. Their world, their cheese was moved. And one of the things, I sort of turned everything on its head, and instead of talking about authenticity as like the headline, I came up with this theme that I called trust, transform, and turn heads. And I really freaking love that.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. If you didn't have this opportunity.
I wouldn't have had that. So I think the game plan, it's like, how do I start talking? Like, I'm going to take that, like, they don't know enough. Basically, I'm going to take that concept and really position it as companies who are going through a transformation, right? Like authenticity, I think can use and it can help in any situation. But, I love the 3-part plan because first, like if you're going to transform, if you don't have the trust of both your internal employees and your external impacted customers, partners, like you're not going to be able to transform without a complete shit show happening, right? And then this concept of the transformation, both with using the authenticity, but as the business, and then the turn heads, I just love because it's such an authentic way to say like stand out, differentiate, right? Like turn heads. So I'm going to take that. I'm going to start playing with it, putting it out there.
Run with that, yes. Yeah.
And see who else, who actually really wants to, invest in a program that helps them do that. And then hold on to the adaptable.
Yeah. I mean, I think anytime this happens, it always seems like I go back to,
what do I really want to do? I want to focus on keynote speaking. And while one was sort of a leadership workshop and one was like, it was a keynote-ish, but it was 100 people or so. But like this also allows me to really keep focusing on like what I want, which is to impact as many people as possible. Not that every venue has to be big, and not that I don't love working with teams individually, but this gives me an opportunity to go bigger. And then taking delusional action. I love that. So authentic. Like I love being delusional.
They just like laughing. I'm like, no.
I'm not kidding. Like
you got to you got to be a little crazy. Like,
yeah. And I'm not to report back on that one because I don't think you come up with delusional action in a hot second, but I'm going to hold myself accountable to you and to our listeners when I get back on record that there's going to be something delusional I'm going to figure out.
It's that moment where you get like getting a bit of confidence. I actually say this story in some of my keynotes, but like the cover I'm on in the student magazine, like years earlier before Ninja Warrior, I had sent literally a photoshopped cover of myself to Oxygen magazine, and no one is crazy. And I sent it on to every email. I sent it to like accounting at
you're like single white female.
And that was like this, I just had a weird moment that day where I was like, you know what? Why not? Like what? Worst that comes to worst, they like don't answer. And they didn't. They literally didn't answer, but I followed up every single month. And then after literally a couple of years, I finally wound up getting like in the magazine, having a relationship with them, whatever. But it's like because of that like second of this delusional little crazy action that you times that
a little defiance, right? Is there a little like a little like you kind of get over the rainbow bridge to like the like fuck you, I'm gonna come back stronger kind of like
you're like why not? You're like why?
What else could go wrong?
Yeah, exactly. At this point, like especially too, a lot of times when you're like you said, when you're like down in the dumps with stuff, it's kind of like at this point, like so what a great opportunity.
Why not?
Wow, like what here? Like go for the thing.
Right.
Might as well right now while you're here.
Hey guys, Erin here. Stop. Do not do it. Don't fast forward. I have something too important. I have a couple of very passive aggressive questions to ask you that you don't want to miss. Here they are. 1, do you find yourself often comparing yourself to others? Like, they work harder than me. They get noticed more than me. They have better luck than me. They're smarter than me. Or do you also just feel exhausted from having to always work as hard, if not harder, than everybody else to stand out and succeed? I know you have these challenges. We all do. And this is why I wrote the 50% rule. And I know you need to read another book like you need a hole in the head. But I'm telling you, this book and this rule, I'm obsessed with it. And it has changed my life. It has changed the lives of others around us. And it has also been the formula for success behind so many successful people. Savannah Bananas, Hamilton, Weird Al Yankovic. The 50% rule is the simplest shortcut to stop comparing, stop copying, stop chasing other people, and like literally compete in your league of your own. There isn't a day that doesn't go by where I stop myself and I'm like, oh, she did a talk that I wish I could do. She's got more. No, it doesn't matter because we don't compete in the same league. I compete in a league of my own because I am constantly 50% ruling things. So if you're interested in this concept, which by the way is more fun as a team sport, but at least start with yourself. You cannot miss this book. It's not only powerful, it's really freaking fun to read. That is always my number one goal. It was my number one goal with my first book. It's my number one goal with the 50% rule. I want to make it enjoyable to read it. Why? So that you read it. So if you feel like you are stuck with these comparison cramps or just all the symptoms that I talk about in the book of sleep running syndrome, self-doubt gout, and pioneer paralysis, and well, you have to read the book to find out more, then just go buy the darn book. Easiest way, go to Amazon, search the 50% rule, and I cannot wait to hear how you 50% rule things.
If you talk about brain dumping, let's talk about your pull-up revolution. I love this because I've always said, yeah, I was an athlete, and I say that like I was a high school athlete, but I'm not a total girly girl. Like I play basketball, I'm on track. All I do is watch sports. Like I'm a sports addict, but I can't freaking do a pull-up to save my life. And in fact, the trauma comes from the rope in elementary school that they would try to have you climb over. And they would put animal names around you. And like, I think the top was like monkey and the bottom was like whatever it was. It wasn't sloth, but it was something, Yeah. And so tell us about the pull-up revolution, because this is more than just like, oh, I want a program to make money. Like this came about more organically.
Yeah. So, I mean, after I tore my ACL, the gym I had, I like wound up closing it. And then cause I was like, I don't want a gym. Like, what am I doing? So I moved to New York City. I was like training with the best of the best, being with the best of the best. But as I was training people online and in person in the city, the only thing that like kept coming up from every woman who would meet me is like, one, they'd be like, oh my God, you're American Ninja Warrior. They'd be like, I've just always been able to do one pull-up. That was like literally kept coming up. And I kept seeing it like come up over and over again. And then I went online and I asked around and I realized there was nothing actually created for women to actually help them get this goal. And so many women have this goal. Like if anyone's listening here who has that goal, like tell me, like everybody.
So Angela, Easter 2 days ago, and I already texted her and said, I'm sending you the, I overheard my husband's cousin talking to my husband about how she really wanted to do a pull-up and my husband giving her like advice. And so I texted her already this morning and I was like, so just so you know, like check out our website. I'll send you
It's wild. I mean, it comes up so much and I kept seeing it. So then I was like, okay, I feel like I see a gap here and like, I'm going to create the solution for it. So I started training these women and really trying to figure out why is it not clicking? Why is it actually, because all the stuff you're seeing online, the PDFs people are buying, like they're either they were created by a man, number one, and they're like, just pull yourself up there. So cool. Or it was just advice that like was drills you see online that are actually very hard to do, very intimidating. So they're telling you to like up and lower yourself down. Like that's not easy to do. So I was like, okay, how can I figure out exactly what it is that they actually do need? And after working with literally tons of women in person, I really was able to create something like I was seeing women get their pull-ups like within weeks just by doing the stuff that we were doing. And it wasn't anything that I saw online. So then I was like, okay, cool. I had the Women's Health magazine editor reach out to me. She's like, I want to get my pull-up. I need to get it in 14 days. Can you help me with it? I was like, absolutely. I can totally help you with it, but you need to put in the work. Like, I'm not going to be able to just like magically be like, here's your pull-up. Like, you need to like put in work even when we're not together. So she shows up every single day. I had this video of her just on the bar, like going nowhere. And within 12 days, we were able to get her pull-ups. She'd been trying for years, got her pull-up. But more importantly, once we got this process and we saw that we had a process we could like repeatedly do, was I saw her confidence go. And that's when I was like, this is why I'm doing this. This is actually like, yes, I've helped down thousands of women get their pull-up, but it's not about the pull-up at all for me. Like, cool. I got the strategy. Let me give you a pull-up. But it's more about when she got the chin above the bar, I saw this like change in her. She became so different. She became more confident. She was walking more confidently. She was showing up better. She went from 1 to 2, then to 10. She was like getting promotions. Like she was trying things she never thought she would ever do before now because of that one thing. And what I saw so much about it was by showing up for this skill that you thought was impossible, that maybe you could never do. Once you can do it with something like that, you can do it with anything in your life. So so now we've helped literally thousands of women. We do one thing, we do it really well. We get everyone in their pull up. It's like one of my favorite things to do. And again, more importantly for me is this mindset and this confidence that they get from it. And I love it because like I'm so tired of the online space being all about getting smaller and thinner and weight loss and da-da-da. I'm like, let's like get strong and feel empowered. And a pull-up is just something that like just the symbolism of it, of pulling yourself up is absolutely incredible. So our community is only women. I don't like guys in. No girls allowed. And I just, again, maybe accidentally, this community of women that I have, we've got like thousands of people in there. Like they're insanely amazing. Like the type of woman who wants to get their pull-up is just very special. A lot of them are 60 and up.
So I was going to say, as a woman who just turned 50, which, is a milestone, you really start to like, you can go one way or another. You can start to think, oh, like everything's downhill from here. And, my body's going to, only get worse. But if you can prove to yourself, which you can, like I went through my own sort of health transformation. I haven't worked on the pull-up, but, transformed my body and my back and my eating and blah, 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 blah. The symbolism and the power that it brings to everything else, I can attest, is so important. So I think, these, whether it's 50 or 60 or 40 or whatever it is, I think it's such a great milestone and an indicator like, no, the best years are not over.
Absolutely. I mean, they see, like, I mean, one of the women in our groups is like 76 and she's working on it with me and she's like going skiing now and like doing all these things. And I'm like, so cool to see that. And it's truly redefining what is possible in so many ways. Like it's redefining what's possible for, again, you physically as you age. It's redefining what's possible for anything. Like you can literally start a new goal or whatever at any age or restart your journey again. With so many people going through so many challenges in the world right now, they're probably like nervous, like, oh my goodness, I feel like I need to start over with so many things. Like you can absolutely do that. And if you can be even stronger from it. Sorry, my dog's like pulling out my plug.
And Dakota, you're running deal room. Just 2 more questions, Pepper. Come on. Two more questions. All right. Second to last question. We always ask people their buck that story. And so this concept is, is there a time when you sort of bucked the norm? You purposely said buck that, if you will, and did something like that goes against the grain, that isn't the norm, isn't expected, and great things happened.
Isn't expected. I mean, I feel like I've done that so many times. I mean, even with like just saying to myself, okay, I'm going to try and create a 6-figure business teaching women how to do pull-ups.
Do a pull-up.
Like my mom was like, you're going to what? And I was like, yeah, I'm going to teach women online how to do pull-ups. And the fact that I've been able to do that is absolutely insane to me. Like I look back at like the thousands of women and the amount we even made on that one thing. And like that seemed like something that was definitely not normal. Everyone's like, oh, do weight loss, do this. And I'm like, nah, like, I'm not going to do that. Like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it differently.
I'm going to do a pull-up so that they can pull up. It's like, what? Yeah, that's
nice. Yeah, definitely. Like, my mom was like, are you sure? And I'm like, no, I'm not, but we're going to do it.
And yeah,
I think it's something that was super powerful. And then definitely, I mean, even the fitness stuff, like the shot in the dark with getting on the car. I mean, who sends a Photoshop cover of themselves to the real people?
And it really, so when you were finally selected to be on the cover, it wasn't like, oh, we saw you on Ninja, or we like something like a connection what happened. It literally was just like that persistence and the ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, I would always email her. I got to know the editor really, really well. And then I honestly just like kind of forgot about getting a cover. So I sent her that email in 2016. And then in 2023, I finally got a text message that said, I have an opportunity for you to be on the cover. And then this was really great and a great opportunity for this to happen because this was after I tore my ACL. So if I would have been on the cover before, it would have been like, cool, another fitness person, like on the cover. Whereas like this is like I have a full story about my comeback and I feel like I had a much greater impact. So I know a lot of times, like, you don't necessarily get things when you want it. Like, I want things yesterday. And like this, I always remind myself, like, divine timing, like this perfect time, because this was the story that needed to be given out to the world. It wasn't just enough
timing.
Yeah.
I love that divine timing. I often say that with speaking, like when I lose of things here and there, I think about like the age of my kids, they're 14 and 16. And I'm like, divine timing says that they're not ready to like kick your career totally 100% into gear while the kids are, still around, et cetera, et cetera. So I love that. Before I ask you the final softball question, where should people follow you? And is there, anything in particular I want to point them towards?
Yeah. So you can follow me on Instagram at Angela_Gargano. Feel free to message me at any time. And then, yeah, I mean, the main things that I'm doing right now, it's kind of wild. It's not a full pivot. I'm still teaching the bullet program, but I'm going all in on my speaking and my thought leadership, which has been a little scary because I'm like, oh, I've always like for years only like posted fitness stuff, but now we're going all in on like the stuff that really, truly deeply matters to me, which is the mindset piece of it and things along those lines. So yeah, I'm doing speaking now for 2025. I have an event on Saturday I'm really excited about.
Well, and you're adorable on stage. I've been watching your videos. Like I've adored you since the minute I met you, especially when I met you in person. But you're not just adorable. You're powerful. You're authentic. I'm like, well, I wish I could smile that much on stage. Like I'm like the one step away from like the Nazi on stage, and like you're such a glorious aura on stage. So you're gonna
want to like box up my energy and take it with them. And I'm like, that's exciting. But yeah, I have my speaking page now, thanks to our speaking group. It's put together now, finally. So it's angela-gargano.com/speaking. And I have like all the stuff on there that I do. And just like for the keynote, and especially as you do too, right? I have my main keynote, but I always customize it to whatever the needs are of the audience that they need, right? So this weekend, like a lot of it is about like the little things matter, kind of what we were just talking about. So I'm really focusing on that for the clients that are in there. But yeah, so I'm really excited, but also nervous to go like you are, like all in. I'm just going to go all in on speaking and see what happens.
I love it. I love it. Last one final tip to make work suck less.
Ooh, to make work suck less. Actually, I was just listening to a podcast. Do you listen to Mel Robbins' podcast?
I have before.
So she had one that just came out, and I actually thought that they made a great point in this podcast that maybe like you're in work right now, and maybe it's not ultimately like what you want to do, or you have other things that you want to achieve. But if you're always constantly going into work just being like, this sucks, it's clearly gonna suck, and it's just gonna like suck the life out of you. So instead, thinking about what skills and what things you are learning from work so that you could actually take it in a positive way. Be like, cool, I'm going to work. Maybe it's not feeling exactly the way I wanted, but I'm learning the skills of how to, negotiate, or I'm learning the skills how to do this. And like knowing that those skills are always super transferable for whatever it is that you want to do. So if you can just shift your perspective on work and work sucking, you're going to be able to live like a much better life. And I thought it was a great way of him saying it. It's like you ultimately are in control of what's happening. And if you're constantly saying it sucks and you're dwelling on that, it's going to continue to suck. So what can you do in order to, and what can you control, and what skills can you take from that to take to whatever it is that you're trying to do?
I love it. We have over 280 episodes of Because Work Doesn't Have to Suck. And maybe the answer is just to walk into work and not say it sucks.
It's more than that.
What is bad? It's bad prints. I love it. Well, thanks again for spending your time and just being who you are and sharing everything with our audience.
Yay. Thank you so much for having me. This is so great.
Hey, it's Erin with a teeny request. If you have ever gotten any value from this podcast and you'd like us to stick around, plus you want it to continue to grow so we can kind of swindle bigger and more knowledgeable guests to join us and to keep providing you with tangible and inspiring actions you can take to achieve the career and life you deserve, could you please just take 1 minute to leave us a rating and a review? Those reviews go a long way in attracting guests to the show, and candidly, they really make Nicole and I's day. We see you. We really do. So when you have the time and inspiration, we'd love to see a rating and review from you. Thank you.